And I always tell people who want to get into the business, they think that it's linear. And, that just is hysterical. I told them hard work is important, but this is not a linear career where you do A, B, and C, and eventually you'll get to Z. That's not how it happens. It's just kind of whatever. Sometimes you can do one project. I heard of somebody who moved to LA. Her first audition was a series regular audition. She booked it. I mean, that's not the norm, but that's something that can happen. And then you have people who they'll book pilot after pilot after pilot. It never gets picked up. And then they decide to leave and, go be a soybean farmer somewhere. They get tired of it. So I always tell people, if you think that it's going to be linear and if you're going to be frustrated by it not being linear, this is not the business for you. Go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, go do something.
If you're a professional actor challenged by an increasingly fragmented industry, then this podcast is for you. The Hollywood Actor Podcast is an anthology made up of the stories of actors building their bodies of work by redefining themselves, reframing their goals, and reevaluating their opportunities. No matter where we are in our careers, we're always looking to be inspired and to share ourselves across our community. This podcast offers that opportunity to guests and to listeners alike as we all discover what it means to be a working, professional, successful actor. This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. Today's guest is Jennifer Marshall. Jen studied at the James Franco Studio, the Howard Fine Studio, and at Groundlings. Her credits include Netflix's Stranger Things, CBS's NCIS, and CBS's Hawaii Five-0. The season finale of her show Mysteries Decoded premieres on Halloween on the CW, and you can follow her at Jen13Jen13 on Instagram and on Twitter. Now let's hear from Hollywood actor Jennifer Marshall.
Well, if somebody would have told me when you grow up, you're going to be an actress, I would have said, yeah, right, you are crazy. It was never a thought process for me. It was never on my radar. I grew up in a one stoplight town, super small in Colorado. I joined the Navy at 17. I served for 5 years. I got out and I had seen one of my friends in a local commercial and I said, hey, how do you do that? And how much did you make? Because of course we're all money minded. And he said, oh, I made $400. And I thought that was so much for 1 day of work. So I asked him where he took classes. I started taking classes at that place. And within the first 2 weeks, I booked my first gig.
Was that here in Los Angeles?
No, it was in Norfolk, Virginia. I had stayed in Norfolk after I got out of the military. My husband was still in the military and we were stationed there. Mm-hmm. And a guy who had won an Academy Award for a student film, he had opened up a studio there.
Okay. You spent many years in the military, coming right out of high school, traveled around the world a little bit, and you fought in Iraq. Is that correct?
I was deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So Navy, we typically are not boots on the ground. We are deployed either to, the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean, and we are on a ship and there's a battle group that surrounds the carrier, and I was on the carrier.
Wow. I know that'll inform not only your life, but some of the acting roles that you've been able to pursue in recent years.
Yeah.
But how did that trajectory of joining the military, did you think you were going to be a career military woman?
Oh, I absolutely did. I had joined and I was making plans for not only 20, but probably 30 years. And I wanted to stay until they pretty much made me retire. But I ended up getting sick from the anthrax vaccine, and it wasn't really tested very well. So I got very, very ill, and I ended up having to leave 5 years in. And it was really, really difficult for me. And I used that experience and that grief to kind of fuel some of my auditions and fuel some of my roles. It was very helpful.
What was that transition for you from the military into higher education. I know you went to University in Virginia. Why did you pick that?
It was difficult because when you're in the military, you kind of only know the military. So I didn't even know the difference between a semester hour, credits. I didn't understand the difference between an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's. And when I got out, I really needed, the people in admissions to kind of hold my hand and take me through this process, which I don't think is unusual with anyone going to college, at a later date. I think it's less common probably with teenagers because they have their parents to kind of guide them through that. So yeah, it was difficult, but Virginia Wesleyan University is a wonderful, wonderful school. And I had a great time there.
And did you start finding that your life was in Virginia, or when you started talking to that friend and learning about the commercial world, did you start being attracted to the world of commercials or looking outside of the state for that type of work?
Well, there was a good amount of work. Norfolk it's a tertiary market, so there's not a ton of work. But when you're first starting out, there's a lot of non-union recreation shows that shoot there. There was a studio called New Dominion. They do a lot of local commercials. You're close enough to Wilmington at that time was popping. You can go up to Philadelphia to audition. So it was a decent sized market for that time. But after being there for about 5 years, everything had dried up, and there was a place that did industrials there, and they ended up telling my agent, we can't see Jennifer. She's been in way too many industrials, and the clients are starting to notice. So for my last 2 years there, I didn't do one drop of acting because there was nothing left to do.
What'd your agent recommend?
She wanted me to stay because we were dear friends, but she did say, you're kind of tapped out in this market. So I had told her when my husband retired from the military, I would be transitioning.
Did she have any recommendations for you, like in terms of local markets, or was she supportive of you moving directly to Hollywood?
Oh, she was. And I was, at the time, Atlanta wasn't really, it was coming onto the market, but, people didn't really know what was going to happen in Atlanta. So it was pretty much LA or New York. And because I was still ill from the anthrax vaccinations, I didn't want to go anywhere cold. So it was LA the whole way.
Geez, it's funny, those little things that create those whole pathways for us.
It's interesting because I'm so fit for procedurals, but I couldn't go to New York because it was so cold. If I had known what I know now, and I could hack a cold, I probably would have moved to New York.
But there are procedurals here,
and
you've made your way into them, like NCIS, which we'll be able to talk about later. So when you were in Virginia and you're married and you're a little bit tapped out, and you're trying to figure out what market you want to move to, you must have had some real understanding that acting, or the business of acting, was something more than you just loved. It was something that you wanted to pursue as a career. What was leading you towards that, do you think?
I think this is funny because I talk to a lot of actors and they're like, it's for the love of the art. And that's not really how I'm oriented. I loved the competitive nature of the business. And I loved the idea of succeeding in something that was very, very difficult, that, people really struggled with. And I thought that I could possibly succeed in an industry that was difficult. And I really was drawn to the challenge of it.
Did you have any contacts here in Hollywood before you moved?
No, not one, not one. And I wish I would have, because, in retrospect, it's who you know. And when I came here, I did not know one single person. Probably in the state of California. You have to start somewhere.
The state of California.
I don't believe I knew anybody.
So you really crash landed in Hollywood, and you're like, okay, how does this work? Let me grab a call sheet from Samuel French. And
yeah, I was so naive. I had no idea. I didn't even have an idea what Samuel French was. I had no idea. So I came here and I started Googling. I said, maybe there has to be other veterans somewhere. Maybe there's a veterans organization. And at the time there wasn't. About a year later, one formed called Veterans in Film and Television. And that's where I met most of the other veterans, which was a huge help because it just kind of squared me away, because I had no idea. I had the drive and I had the desire, but I just didn't have the knowledge base.
That's funny. That's so new. veterans for film and TV, that should be coming up this late in the game. It almost seems like Facebook and those types of, growing out of the internet age and these different like chat rooms, like they've kind of found their homes now on Facebook. Everybody has a Facebook account and everybody can find those pages and organizations and connect a little bit more easily. And so they find these niche organizations that are starting to now press up out of the noise.
And it's super helpful. I mean, there's Facebook pages for Native Americans. There's Facebook pages for differently abled people in the acting community. The Middle Eastern, North Africans. There's so many different resources, which I just think is wonderful because we're all part of these acting groups on Facebook that are 10,000 people or something, and it kind of gets to be noise if you don't have a structure in them.
Yeah.
So to be able to hone in on your specific community and say, okay, how can we, advocate for our community, women in film, women in media, all of those are just really great resources.
Thanks for listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share.